Welcome back to our podcast, guys. Hopefully, you've been listening. We did take a week of break, not intentionally. We just were we were a little bit busy with holidays. A good excuse. But welcome back, and hopefully, you're watching us or listening to us. We still don't know if TikTok is going to be a thing or not, but thank you for those that are following on Facebook and on YouTube. And if TikTok is still a thing, then also TikTok.
Do
To
we have a countdown for that for when TikTok is gonna
Yeah,
go dark?
a few days now. I think
I thought it
Sunday.
was like tomorrow.
Oh,
I thought it was
uh,
Sunday. Is it? I don't know when it's going
I'm
dark.
pretty sure it's the
Exact hour.
19th, which is Sunday.
Oh,
Is it gonna be like an exact
I
like
said
hour or
15.
minute? Like can there's an exact time at like midnight TikTok is
As
gonna
as
go
far as
dark?
we were told, well, I've seen we were told, like I was part of the conference, is they're just shutting I guess the updates and all that. So like, it's not like it's gonna go black and from one day to another, it's gonna slowly stop functioning with Apple and Android. So
Oh.
so yeah, like we won't be able to post, I think, anymore. But we'll still be able to watch for a while.
Oh. So
So
there's still be you store content will still be on your accounts and everything.
yeah, but then as
Okay.
they put in updates, it won't be useful. And they update apps almost every day because there's bugs every day.
Ooh,
Do you know where everyone's like, where is everyone gonna go once TikTok is like gone or in the dark? Is everyone gonna go to Instagram? Are they gonna go to
It's not
another
the
app?
topic of the day, but we can talk
I
about
know, I mean, this wasn't supposed to be the topic, but
it.
I mean,
But
everyone's
we
thinking about it. I mean, most
there
people.
is one so there's two. There's Do
I know
Yongji,
another
which is it's well there's three. Do Yongji, which is the actual TikTok equivalents in China. Not a lot of people are going to that one. A lot of people are going to Red Note, which is
Oh, I heard about that
kind
one.
of a mixture of Instagram and TikTok. Um, the problem with those two is that they like their main base is in China. So whenever you accept their terms, you're accepting Chinese terms, which are very strict. Like for example, I do anime stuff, or I watch or post sometimes of anime stuff. Most of those shows are blocked in China. So,
Oh,
so you can't post, you can't talk about that, you can't put anything of that. There's a lot of artists, like music artists, that you can't
huh.
sample their music.
So it's way more strict.
They're strict, yeah, but people are still moving there. The other thing also is like I've heard a lot of videos like once you accept their terms, anything you post on that, they can use it for whatever. Like
Mm,
they own everything.
yeah.
Hmm.
So like let's say we make a video, they can get that video and make a commercial and make money out of it, and we don't get 1 cent. So.
Oh, that's
Hmm.
bad.
Yeah, or if let's say Amaris gets in, she makes a few videos and she goes, you know what, I don't want this, and she deletes it. Well, the company still owns those 4 or 3 videos that she made. Even if she deletes her account,
What?
they still keep it as
They
data.
can use it wherever they see
They
fit.
can use it if they want. So yeah, so there's a lot of people that have not gone to Red Note that they're reading the terms and like, whoa, whoa, be careful what you're accepting
Posting.
to. But obviously the US government doesn't like that. So now they're saying that they're gonna put a hold on the
Oh,
ban
red.
to discuss it in the Senate. But it's a bunch of waste of money. Like, why are they spending all their money on discussing TikTok if it should be banned or not? Like,
Yeah. I
like
don't understand. I heard of some idea. Have you I know
there's
this wasn't supposed to be the point of discussion, but
you know, I mean,
I'll
there's
try to.
other topics like healthcare, like helping the veterans, helping California
Oh,
and the Carolinas and
Yeah,
Florida
there's so many
and
more important
Hawaii.
things. Priorities, right, over a social
Education,
media
yes.
platform.
Education, yes. Give me a raise, please. I'm kidding.
yeah.
I think teachers need a raise. I think
Yeah.
They should.
teachers, firefighters, nurses, like,
Yes.
Yes.
they should make more money.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yep.
So, but anyways, that's
Well,
where it's happening in TikTok. Nothing is for sure inserted and set on stone, but um,
That
yeah,
was like our 5 minute news
5 minute
news
news. Yeah,
update.
yeah. Let us know what you guys think. Yeah. Oh, the
We
third
need a
one
5 minute
is
news
well, at
update.
least that I know is Lemon Eight is
Oh,
another one.
Lemonade is the same as TikTok or the
So
same owner.
it's the same owner. So yeah, so Lemonade essentially
It's also
it's gonna go away if TikTok does go away. As
Huh.
well as CapCut and anything that's owned by the same owner is gonna go away. So a lot of people would use CapCut to edit videos for like Instagram and YouTube, and
Hmm.
now they won't have
that's
that.
I wonder how many people are really going to be impacted economically from losing
There's
TikTok
a
because
lot of
their whole
people that
jobs are on TikTok, you
yeah.
know? So,
Yeah, because you don't make the same amount of money in YouTube or Instagram or Facebook that you can make on TikTok. Uh,
oh,
they're like the views that, well, just in views, you can make 10 times, 20 times more money in TikTok than what you do on YouTube. Like you have to really put a lot of effort. And even then, like in TikTok, you can start making money faster. Like you're approved
mm.
faster to make money
Oh,
than
you
in
can
YouTube.
monetize your account
Yeah.
faster.
Whereas in
And you can use
YouTube,
TikTok Shop too, right? A lot of people make money
you
out of
can,
TikTok
yeah,
Shop.
or you can like promote other products that are not yours and make money out of that. A lot of people do that as well. So yeah, there's a lot of people that are complaining online that
Their
they
income's
like
going to take a hit.
they it's like either their second job or it's now their main
now their
job.
life.
Yeah. So it's sad. Hopefully, there is another platform they can jump into, but honestly, that's why they're not going to any American platform right now. They're jumping to other ones that are Asian or other places because they can't make any money. Like they've tried. Here
Making
on
money on like
YouTube,
YouTube or Instagram,
yeah,
and it's not the same.
it's insane. Like now with YouTube, with the new rules they have, you have to have like 50,000 hours viewed in 1 year. If you don't have that, then you
You
can't
don't
even,
get any money.
yeah, something
And you
like
still a
that.
thousand subscribers, right? Before you can monetize, right? Something like that.
Yes, I believe it's still 1,000 here in
Yeah.
YouTube. But even then, like it's not just per view, it's for how much they watch the ad. It's also if they click the link. Like there's a lot of to it if how
Mm.
you make money on YouTube, and they still keep a big chunk of it. So because it's owned by Google,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
Google
when
wants
Google is
their
so
money.
rich. I wish
Yeah,
I would have invested in Google stock 20 years ago when I was a kid. I would
yeah,
have been like, invest in Google stock. What are
yeah.
you doing? Buy
Wish
Facebook,
when I
Google
was
stock,
9
Tesla,
years old.
Amazon. I should have been buying a house. I should have been buying stocks. What was I
Yes.
doing?
So,
I was such a dumb kid.
but
Okay.
yeah, maybe we can do a podcast if you guys want. Let us know in the comment section
Yeah, let us know like,
on
what discussion points if you want to hear, more about these sorts of things like current events.
yeah.
Well, today's podcast we are going to be talking about a Reddit story, article, a story I found online on Reddit. I'm going to read what was posted, and then we'll go ahead and react and respond to it. I won't really give a synopsis on it. I'm just going to jump right into it.
Yeah.
Um,
Remember to do not mention any names, even if it's companies or if it's any musician or stuff like that, or church names, because
okay,
sometimes they put that on the
I will.
thing.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I don't want to have to bleep it out. So yeah, I won't try not to say any names,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So like if
or
they
I'll make one
say,
up.
uh, yeah, 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 because we're not sponsored by anyone.
Yeah, we're
We can,
not.
dude, it's
We're independent.
we're independent.
Now,
Okay.
I'm gonna start. I used to go to church with a friend of mine a lot when I was around 12 or 13. Never really raised religious, just, going to church with a friend. At the time, I just worshiped Metallica. This was when the Black Album came out. I would do what all the other blunder year kids would do and draw their name on notebook paper during math class. Blah, blah, blah. You get the picture. But one day, my friend asked me to go with her to another room in an empty building of the megachurch because we needed to talk. I resisted, but she finally convinced me it would be okay. We just needed somewhere private to talk about maybe letting Jesus in my life. I went and she led me to a room with a man and a woman sitting in fold out chairs and no light was on,
Whoa.
just daylight shining through. They both told me about how I was going to hell for listening to heavy metal and questioned the evilness of the smoky quartz crystal around my neck. They questioned me about all kinds of other things, but honestly, I can't remember because I was so scared, confused, humiliated, and backstabbed. She had told a youth counselor she was worried about my soul. I never told a soul because I was so ashamed. I mean, heck, I was young and didn't understand. We ended the friendship, and I finally told my mother. She got mad, but never did anything. Looking back, it's really creepy, not only because of the crazy religion part, but because they were two young girls with a couple in an empty part of this huge, now huge mega church whose pastor was charged with sex crimes and pedophilia. I didn't know this at the time. There's my crazy church story, and I'm glad my dumb, explicit word adolescent head thought to get the H out of Dodge and that some just might not be right. Hmm.
Wow. So this is a story of maybe someone who definitely left the faith.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a story of having a bad experience with the church and then with
What does it?
proclaimed Christians as well, it would appear. And it's really sad. This person, this child, at least at the time was only, like he said, 12 or 13.
Yeah,
So
middle
this
school.
is this can be a very traumatic experience for someone at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Like
said
he
left
was,
the faith. They didn't even entered faith. I mean,
No,
they were
they were being, what is the word? Evangelized to, or you know what I mean? Like they were trying
hmm.
to fish them to,
Yeah, in a very unproductive and it seems negative
yeah.
way, apparently, because
I
they
do
weren't, huh?
no go for it, go for it.
I would say they obviously weren't showing love to this person, like the way they made him feel. It seemed like from reading it, he felt attacked by them,
I thought it was a girl.
judged and attacked, huh?
I thought it was a girl.
Uh, it, I keep saying,
Yeah, it's a girl because she said two girls and a couple.
oh,
There were two
my
young girls and a
apologies.
couple, and yeah.
My apology. Yeah, we'll say she girl. My apologies.
Yeah. Yeah, I know why you think it's a guy. It's because of the
Because it's
band
Metallica.
Because of the band,
Metallica.
that's where my
Usually
brain went
boys are
to.
into Metallica.
Very sexy.
Very sexist, yeah.
I apologize to everyone who's listening. I didn't. I
Amani can
didn't
like
mean it that way.
Metallica if she wants.
I didn't do anything. I didn't really like Metallica when I was
Yeah,
growing
I
up,
didn't either. I just said
but
yeah.
I was literally not allowed to listen to any music that wasn't gospel or Christian music
that.
growing up.
Yes,
So
I'm with you there. If it wasn't Christian music, it was Michael Bublé or Celine Dion, and that was it.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it
so there's a lot of things in this story.
there is
But I
a lot
guess
to
we'll,
break
we'll
down.
talk with the first one. We'll start with the first one, the music. So you guys said you never heard Christian music unless it was the heathen Michael Bublé and who else?
No, you said it wrong. We would only listen to Christian music. You said you never
Oh,
listened to
sorry, you
But
would.
what did you list? What were the exceptions? Was it Michael Bublé,
My
some
exception was
Celine
Michael
Dion?
Bublé and Celine Dion, like in general as a family, but like me personally, I was like a rebel. And I say that with a lot of sarcasm because my rebellion was like listening to the Jonas Brothers or like Hannah Montana or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We
I
listen to outside world music, uh,
you
but
did.
there were still limits. Like my dad never liked any music that had cuss words or anything like that. He was very restrictive with that. He always thought it was like trashy music. But that's because my dad would write music, so he had like what's the right word, I guess? Like he had a way of thinking like this is the proper way to write music. And if you're gonna put profanity, he didn't like it. So but I still listen to outside world. I do remember him not liking me to listen to certain music. The Eagles was the band that he didn't like me to listen to. I'm not going to go into detail with that, but Hotel California, he hated that song. He prayed. I remember he prayed the lyrics and he sat me down and he went word by word and he was like, "This is bad. This is bad. This is bad." Um, and then he didn't like me listening to Queen, which
Oh,
is weird because like I listened to a guy in Spanish who. Um, pretty much was also homosexual.
yeah.
So so it was kind of like, I mean, I
You're like,
get it, but at the same time, like you're not mad
what's
about
the
this guy.
difference?
Yeah, you're not mad about this guy. So there was certain bands and certain
He had to like it, I think, the way it sounded. Because
yeah,
I think about some of the songs in the genre that he liked, and I'm like, they also, talked about drinking and stuff like that, and he was like,
yeah.
you know,
He was okay
turned a
with it.
blind eye.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I understand, but I do understand. I did have aunts. Well, I still have aunts. Obviously, I have aunts, but also had other family members, but outside of the family as well, in church that would teach us the same way. Like you're listening to this, that's bad, right? Um,
Yeah. Which there was like, so I was only allowed to really listen to Christian and gospel music, but I mean, there was, if the music, I mean, there was clean music that wasn't necessarily like worship music, it would be a little bit more acceptable. Like
yeah,
there's no profanity in it. Nothing vulgar is in it.
yeah,
There could be minor exceptions here and there, but it was generally just Christian and gospel. Then I like, even when I like grew up, a lot of people my age, they knew a lot more music and songs than I knew because I didn't listen to any of them when I was growing up.
yeah,
I had to go back and catch up, and I listened to a lot of songs as I was getting older because I'm like, I didn't listen to those when I was like, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Like I wasn't listening to that.
yeah.
So,
I feel like everyone, to an extent, is sheltered some way. Uh, because I was the same way. Like I didn't, there was certain stuff that I didn't watch. I wasn't able to do certain stuff. Like I remember me being told by my dad, you cannot take your Pokemon cards anywhere because people would say stuff like, "Oh, those things from the devil." Like
yeah, I wasn't allowed to do Pokemon at all.
yeah, so at one time I think they're like, we're gonna throw all this stuff away, and we're like, no, not our stuff. So and same thing with basically any Asian show that was translated.
Yeah.
So Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh, any of that stuff, it was from the devil. So anyways, and my parents weren't always like that for everything, but they were pick and choose sometimes, and it depended who told him or who told them that it was from the devil, that they would say yes, or sometimes they were like, no, it's not, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I was sheltered by the choices that my parents would choose to listen to and watch. I think everyone to an extent is at that point. Now
Yes.
going to the
I was gonna
church,
say, kind of like,
Yeah, and I
look,
just to clarify, just
uh,
I want to clarify. I obviously don't agree with however these people were at this church, how they handled this, 12 or 13-year-old child by telling them they're going to hell for listening to the
I
heavy metal
think a big,
music. I think that's very extreme and
yes,
unnecessary.
I think the first mistake that they made there was secluding these girls in a dark room. Like,
yeah.
that's a
Yes.
major red flag right
Yeah.
there.
That in itself is just weird energy. Like
Yeah, no lights on.
yeah, like who even does that? Like I've worked in the church and that was a rule. You meet with a female member of the church, even if you're very close friends, you leave the door open or well, you leave the door open and you make sure that someone's there. So, for example,
Yeah.
I work close with one of the church members. She was a female. She was around my age. Um, and every time she came to either get stuff ready or make copies with me, I'd make sure the secretary was there in the office or someone's were in the office and the doors were always open, right? Um, if I ever met with a kid or anything, like either parents were around or something, because things can happen. And actually, in fact, this week we they started making me stay after school with kids, and we only had, at least for my group, girls stay. And they were saying, well, we can do 50-50. You take three girls and do math in your room, and we'll take two, three girls and do reading in our room. And I said, no. I said, no. We're gonna go all together into one room and we'll do rotation and it can be loud, that's okay. But because of that, like even if it's multiple girls, uh,
Yeah.
things can happen or nothing can happen, but they can say stuff and say like,
Yeah.
you did this and that, and that's two girls against you, and you can't do anything
Yeah.
about it. So these people were not trained. They're not protecting themselves. They're not protecting the kids. They're not protecting anyone in this situation. Um,
No, and it sounds like they were trying to, I don't know if they're trying to intimidate this child, manipulate, intimidate. I'm not quite sure what the motive was. Can't imagine they were actually thinking they were doing, service to this person by, putting them in a dark room with folding chairs, telling her she's going to hell for listening to heavy metal music, and then they point out the crystal around her neck, saying that that's evil, which is brings us to another topic about, Chris or crystal, I've heard different things that, from people. Some people believe that crystals are like all together. It's kind of a superstitious way of looking at it about crystals, that crystals are evil. Have you guys heard anything about crystals at all?
I haven't heard anything about crystals, but I do have a few friends that are, some of them are Christian, and but they're, not frequently going Christian, like they don't frequently go to church. And then I have other friends that they're not Christian or they once were Christian and now they're not, that they, do the whole crystal thing. And I'm not 100% sure like the what the belief is behind the crystals. I just know that they believe that they absorb certain energies from these crystals
or release energies.
or
Yeah.
or release energies. Um,
Hmm.
and to me though, like I would wear a crystal, but just because it looks pretty, not because like,
Yeah, you're not being overly spiritualistic or
I'm not,
superstitious
I
about a
mean, not at
crystal.
all. I would just be like,
Yeah.
oh, that's,
It's just a rock.
it's just a rock. It's pretty, so I'm gonna wear it.
Yeah,
It's a
if
rock.
someone told me, hey, I'm collecting these crystals because I think they're pretty, great. That's a hobby.
I
Um,
actually used to collect rocks when I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember going to the playground and going like, "Oh my gosh, I
Cool
found this
rock.
pretty rock." Maybe it was nothing, but it was pretty. Or you go to the beach and you find shells, right? Whatever
Yeah.
it is. Um, and same thing what Amadis is saying. That's a good point. Like if I saw someone in church and they had crystals, my first initial thought wouldn't be like jump on them and say, "Hey,
It's
you're
evil.
going to hell for that." Um, it could just be decorations. Some
Yeah.
people honestly just do that for decorations. They don't believe in the whole thing. Now, if you do believe, if you put your faith in those crystals,
Yeah. We don't
that
believe,
is
I don't think you
where.
should be praying to crystals. Yeah.
Well, and I don't think it's so much praying, but they
I
have
don't know.
faith that the
Have
crystal
faith in the
will heal them.
crystals to protect them, that sort of thing, or
Yeah, like protect them or heal them or take
Yeah.
away some sort of
Mm.
energy or give them energy. I don't know, like good vibes or whatever. You know, the vibes.
Yeah, I don't know what sign like I don't know if there's any. I don't know much about crystals at all. I
Yeah.
don't.
So honestly, I think if I knew someone who does that, I still wouldn't be like jump on them and you know
Right.
what? That's not from God. And the thing is that I think in the early 2000s, even in the teens, or early teens, There was still this idea from the 90s and 80s of kind of crusade here in the United States
Mhm.
and very evangelical thinking, which is another topic that hits that this story hits is preaching the you're going to hell if you don't do that. Um, and it almost seems like we're the pioneers and we're the ones that have to save lives. We don't save anyone. I've never saved anyone. Even if you claim that you save anyone, you haven't saved anyone. Christ is the only one that saves,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
We're just the tools, right? Uh,
Yeah.
a carpenter can still build a table if he doesn't have his hammer. He'll find another hammer, right? So,
Yeah.
um, I think it's very, I think it's sinful almost, not almost for sure, to think that you're going to be the person that's going to change that person.
Yeah, especially through these sort of tactics, this like almost psychological manipulation, intimidation. Like this is not the way to
But
approach people
yeah,
or to get to them.
it's not exhibiting God's love at all. In fact, it's probably the opposite of that. And if we look at the ways that Jesus would that's not a word, evangelize
Evangelize. Yeah.
to people, or like how he would bring them to himself,
I
he
know.
wouldn't approach that way of
He wouldn't be like, come follow me in this dark room.
no,
And then
no.
tell them they're evil and
And he
this is
wouldn't
wrong.
list
He
their
wouldn't,
faults.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think only that one time with the woman in the well, he kind of low key like called her out, but it was because
in
she
broad
doubted
daylight.
him.
Yeah, I think he was doing it more to acknowledge, or for her to acknowledge that he knew. Like
Right,
he
Yeah, it
knew
was
what
like
she
he was
had.
more acknowledging like I know what your life is. I know who you
right.
Yeah.
are.
But yeah, but he was still, exhibiting love,
Yeah.
and I think like primarily that's the way we should go about the way we ourselves are as Christians, and with any topic, whether someone is, you know, uh showing interest in an opposite political party, or they they listen to other music that you don't listen to, or they dress differently,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. Even if someone is different from you, it doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be loved, that they don't deserve to feel or see God's love through you.
Yeah.
um
That's that's exactly right. Yeah. I 100% agree with all of that. It's kind of like we see that, in the Bible how Jesus shows love to people. He didn't just like start accusing them of all the wrong things they were doing. Like when he went to the tax collector's house, you remember like was Zacchaeus? We
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
that story about him going to the
Yeah.
tax collector's house,
yeah.
and he was so honored by the fact Jesus was going to have dinner at his house.
Hmm.
And he that alone, Jesus was showing his love and he was like building a relationship with someone without just initially just accusing them and telling them all the wrong things they're doing. Because a lot of times people know what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah. And
Some of the time.
The Pharisees were doing similar things in time of Jesus. Like they were taking the law and they were being very strict with it. Um, I mean, what was the number? Like above 600 laws were created from just the Ten Commandments through the Jewish community um, because of that. And just like you said, like they were being too strict. When Jesus came and he was healing people on the Sabbath, like not exactly, but he essentially was telling them like you missed the whole point of why I say respect the Sabbath or why it's written to respect the Sabbath, right? Um,
Yes.
and they were doing like, well, you can't work on the Sabbath, you can't do anything on the Sabbath, you can't heal people on the Sabbath. Like, what are you doing?
It wasn't meant to be a burden to people. It was meant to
It,
be to help people, is what I'm
yeah.
Yeah.
saying.
So I think there's a lot of things that we've established that should help, but I think sometimes we take it too far or sometimes we just take a whole different direction, or sometimes we're just not even patient. Like this is a 12-year-old. God is still working in that kid. Um,
Or what?
Exactly.
or was, yeah. But no, he's still working on her, obviously.
Well,
God
yeah.
Yeah,
doesn't
I mean, I
um,
can believe.
but we're sometimes impatient. Like we want to see 50 people get baptized this year, or we want to see whatever number you
Yeah.
want to say. And so we start like pressuring people to make
But they,
decisions that maybe they're not even ready to make.
yeah, they act like getting a conversion to Christianity is like a sale in a job or something. Like you
Yeah.
can't just, there is no like script you can use to just make someone just,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that. It just
Mm-mm.
doesn't work. You can't use sales tactics, like intimidate people, pressure people,
Yeah.
into having this, faith or belief. It's
Right.
just not going to work.
And
Or
um
fear mongering, of course, as well is not going to work.
I kind of get where the friend is coming from because I've been in that situation myself where you love your friend so much that you think about like, oh my gosh, I don't
Or-
want to, leave Earth without them. I don't want them to end up in hell type things. I understand that, but I'm sure that the friend also felt the pressures of the whatever the church has taught her. So that's why she pushed this meeting, or that's why she went to this youth leader that, provoked this meeting. But if that friend would have been taught properly what it is to, to talk about Jesus and to show Jesus's love and all that kind of stuff, then this also would have been avoided. And I mean, I don't think there was anything wrong with her going to said youth leader, but maybe
Yeah,
instead of this meeting taking place, maybe they could have just been like, okay, Roger that, heard. We'll be praying for your friend type thing and allowing God himself to continue to work in that girl and whatever she was going through, or what they thought was evil, but
yeah,
um because there are, and I think we were headed in this direction, there are steps to becoming a Christian, there are steps to evangelism, and they kind of just like jump shipped a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I know a bunch of church leaders that do that. Like they sometimes they don't want the sin to even enter the church, or they say, oh, it's because their sin is on display. And that may be true, but everyone else in the congregation has a sin and they're hidden sin. So that's, in my opinion, sometimes that's worse because they've been going to your church every single Sunday and yet they still have a sin and they're hiding their sin versus
yeah,
the person that was, brand new to the faith, trying to learn from the faith, and
yeah,
they, quote unquote, had a sin on display, but it
yeah,
wasn't their, like, it wasn't their time to come to repentance yet. And that comes with time, that comes with work. Like that comes with God's work, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
yeah. And a lot of times these churches, they're making, rules and regulations, this legalism where they're saying like, the heavy metal was wrong, the crystal is wrong, you know,
Yeah.
they're they're trying to use fear tactics in order to control people. It's pretty evident here that they're using intimidation. I imagine if they did it for this girl, that they did it for others as well, of trying to control them by trying to scare them. I mean, to me, if this happened to me when I was 12, I would have been a little freaked out. I'm going to be honest. If I got taken to a room
Mm-hmm.
like this by myself,
Yeah.
I would have been a little freaked out. And they told me it was evil and everything. I was going to hell. Like I would have been a little freaked out, especially at 12 or 13.
Yeah. It's
Like
it's the wrong way. Like it's the wrong way to think. Like why why are you trying to quote unquote clean or fix someone before they're brought to the feet of Christ. Like that makes no sense to me. You come to the feet of Christ because you acknowledge that you're broken. But it almost feels like they're trying to like fix them up and very similar to what she's saying is like, they don't want imperfect people in their church almost.
But that's what church is for, you know?
Yeah, but that's what church is for your growth, and growth in family with people that can help you grow, and we're all growing. Like, I am very appreciative of the pastors that I've worked with and I'm with, that believe that growth does not stop at baptism, right? For a
Mhm.
lot of us it might be even just the start of our growth.
Mhm.
From there, we start growing more. I mean, it's so wild for me to think that they're trying to get all this stuff fixed up before they even bring them to Christ.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, then why do you even believe Christ is going to fix them up,
exactly.
or is gonna do anything in his life if you're doing it all for Christ, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think. And flipping the story a little bit, there we also have to consider that this story was written by her perspective.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
maybe it wasn't all like that. So I guess I'll be a little bit less
Yeah.
pushy.
Except it's so bad. I'm like, even if it was a little better than this, it's still bad. But yeah, we have to
The
consider
thing
the
is,
other perspective.
Yeah,
Urban might be thinking like, "Oh, I want to hear, the church
yeah.
leader's
I
perspective,"
would want to hear their
and I'm
perspective on it
like,
as
I
well.
don't think I want to hear it. I don't
I
Out
want to hear it
of
because
curiosity, not because I'm like
Because
thinking
I
I'm just
feel
gonna
like
condone
these
it.
people, and I think these people are also, at the end of the day, the leaders are probably still victims when it comes
That's true.
to,
They're just following what they've been told.
Their church or their pastors told
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, especially when there's a bigger
Or
church,
that's all they know.
yeah, that's all they know. When there's a bigger church and the pastor can't hit every single person who's coming to Christ, it happens. Um, they sometimes create like a cookie cut type of like, this is how we bring people to Christ. And
Mhm.
Yeah. It
some
doesn't work like
people are
that.
not placed in the right position of leadership. Like we got people
Yeah.
that are great greeters, and we got people that are in the greeting committee, in the greeting
What is it?
committee,
Green.
people
Greeting
that welcome
committee
people to the
that
Oh,
church.
welcome you
Yeah,
when you walk
the
in. Like,
welcomers.
oh,
I
Yeah,
know I used to go to church, there'd always be someone right before I went into the
yeah,
sanctuary that would be like,
yeah.
welcome, here's a
We do
pamphlet.
that. We do
And
that in our church. We have a committee that welcomes people. But there is people that should not be in that ministry, and it's not because they're not good Christians. It's because those aren't their gifts. And I think,
yeah.
like me.
I used to be did I tell you guys I used to be an usher in church when I
yeah,
was
Oh,
a teenager. I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it because
yeah,
of the church I was in. They made me like tell people this is where you need to sit. I had to go tell
oh
people you're not
yeah, I
allowed to
don't like
chew
that.
gum.
yeah.
Like I
I
just
don't
did
like that
not
at
like being an
all.
usher. I did not want to do it.
That goes along with with like what we're talking about. It's like already telling people what to do and they're only visitors or
See,
whatever.
I don't like doing that at
So,
all.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a
yeah,
like a police officer of the church.
right.
Don't walk while the pastor's preaching. I'm like, I
I
don't want to
think
do any of this.
I think only
But
when it's like a bigger event, a bigger church event where you're gonna run out of seats. That's the only time you need to be like telling said and so family, can y'all scoot over so that these people can sit here?
Yeah.
yeah, there's some times where you do need to arrange people so that
Yeah.
way everyone can fit.
Uh-huh.
But I
So
do.
what I'm saying is that maybe these people were put in the evangelism group without them being tested. If and there's churches,
They
the evangelical movement
It sounded to
believes,
me like
they may think they're
or am
doing
I
the
wrong?
right thing here. You're right about that. And from their perspective, they think they're doing the right thing. And it's
Right.
probably because they just have a lot of misinformation. They have a lot of like dogma traditions that are not, that are not real. They're not true.
Mhm.
And they're just acting upon it without
Yeah.
any further guidance making these sorts of mistakes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And there's people for everything. Like I'm still behind that. Like I understand that we're all called to reach out to people,
You're right.
but in that specific moment of talking about faith and bringing them closer to Christ, that specific thing, I don't think it belongs to everyone. I think there is certain people that are called for that, and some people that are not called for that. Some people just through serving, they can bring people closer to Christ, but it's not their gift to do something like this, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
it's it's because I feel like us as people, we want to make everything fit into a formula. And faith and
Mhm.
spirituality, God, they do not work like that. They
yeah,
don't work in like a math equation. Like, if you do this, this is going to equal this, and this has to happen at this time. Life doesn't work like that. We can have
yeah,
a plan for life, and then life just throws us all sorts of things, and it can completely mess up our plan. And a part of like faith is a journey that people go through. They experience new things, they learn, they grow, and then they also, even as they're growing, they discover their spirituality, their belief in God. And it doesn't work. You can't really just hammer it in. You can't, hammer it into someone. You can't intimidate it. The fear tactics. It just doesn't work like that.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
And at the end of the day, we don't know God's plan. Like, we don't know how he was working or how he is working in this young lady. Um, and yeah, it's like you said, we can't manipulate what God's plan is because um at the end of the day, he has the final word. He knows what he's going to do with her. And
exactly.
we're how Irvin said, we're just supposed to be tools, we're supposed to be vessels in order to facilitate her relationship with God and not hinder it. And
Exactly. You
that's
focus on treating others how you'd want to be treated, loving others. That's what we need to
yeah.
focus on.
Now,
And showing empathy to people. In this situation, like I don't imagine how they cannot think back and imagine
yeah,
themselves at 12 and think how this was a good idea.
yeah, yeah. And again, they had bad leadership. She ends her story with the pastor had sex crimes and pedophilia
Oh yeah.
charged on him eventually. Uh,
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
so we know the leadership was not good.
Yes. Yes, obviously. Yeah.
There's no way
There's some
around those.
serious problems. Yeah.
Obviously, again, we're all sinners. We're all gonna sin. Um, but if you're placed in a position of leadership, you still have to you have to work on your sins. You can't just say, "Well, we're all sinners, and I'm just gonna sin because we're all sinners," right? There's still that push, and I think like
Also, sorry, I'll let you finish.
I'm just saying these type of crimes are just like it almost feels like they place themselves in that position and be able to
Act out
act
the
out on those
um
Mm. I
yeah,
um
wanted to clarify, we're not sure if the same, at least for me reading the Reddit article, we're not sure if the same person who was charged with the sex crimes was the same person who intimidated the girl in the room, the man and the woman. I'm
I
not
don't
sure. I don't think they're the same. It's
no,
saying the
because
know.
past,
she says who's pastor,
who's pastor.
so the pastor was not in the room.
So the pastor wasn't in the room, but
No,
it,
I understood that it was a youth leader, but I could be wrong.
yeah, that's what it's saying, but it says a man and a woman
Yeah,
were
it's
both
probably the
in there.
youth leader and his wife.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Um yeah.
Sitting in fold out. Yeah, a man and a woman sitting in fold out chairs. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Very
But
specific
obviously
with the
it's
chairs is like fold out
Hold
chairs.
on.
I wonder why she did mention that specific detail about a
Because
fold
they
out
were
chair.
not church chairs. They were
Maybe
just
because it was like a room that's not really meant to be met in, like a giant, like
I
empty
think so.
room.
It sounded like maybe like
It's not a comfortable
classroom
place.
thing.
And
Because
that's a part of intimidation tactic to get someone to do something. You put them in an uncomfortable place.
you
To
normally
make,
have fold-out chairs in like the classrooms, so I'm assuming it was a classroom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. It could have been a classroom.
Um, I was gonna say too, though, like going back to acting out on the sins and whatnot, and being a leader carrying sins, because I mean, what leader doesn't carry a sin? It's like Irvin said, like you have to work on those sins, but at the same time, you can't let those um pull you away from your position, because if you want to be the perfect leader, or if you're waiting to be the perfect leader, if you're waiting to be sinless, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Now
Um,
I'm gonna be negative. I think
Okay.
I think some sins, if you're working on some sins, it should pull you away from some leadership positions.
oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, like pedophilia?
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
Don't
cannot
do
you cannot say I'm working on pedophilia, but I'm working on it.
No.
Let me work with kids. No.
Yes.
No, that's not a good idea.
No,
No.
I agree with Irvin, and I think we had this conversation earlier this week for some reason. I don't even remember. We were talking about something. Um,
Pedophilia, you know.
no, as a church leader, maybe because
Oh,
I think
no.
it's because we saw a show or something, or we saw
Probably.
something on TV, and we both came to that conclusion that, like, if you're struggling with something, then don't dive into that ministry.
Yeah.
Look for a different one. But again, like if you're here's just an example. If you're struggling with anger, if you're struggling like with what's another thing that's um what's another thing that's a sin but is like,
Pride.
sure, if you're struggling with pride, you're struggling with anger, and you're like, well, I'm gonna, you know, step away from this ministry, or I can't be in charge of this ministry because I have this anger, I have this pride, and I'm going to wait until I'm good and I'm clean. Well, as soon as maybe, I mean, and I'm not saying that the anger and the pride can't go away, because God, he does all things. He can take away that anger. He can take away that pride. But once that's gone, then you're on to the next sin. And I'm saying that because we're human. We're always going to be sinning, even when we don't know it. We can try to live a perfect life, but it's not going to happen because, again, because we're human.
There's only one purpose.
Perfection is
One
futile.
perfect person, that's Christ. And if we truly believe what his word says, that he came to earth to cleanse us from our sins, he tore that veil so that we can be in communion with him. Then those sins have been buried,
Yeah.
and so we're worthy of being in a position to where we can take leadership even when we struggle with our sin. But again, like
Yeah.
Earth said, like if you're struggle with
Yeah.
pedophilia, please do not be a
Yeah.
youth leader, do not be a youth volunteer,
Yeah, we're not. Yeah.
don't be a children's minister, don't be a
Yeah.
children's volunteer.
Yeah, everyone doesn't need to be in a position of leadership, especially with these
Right,
sorts of
If if your
struggles.
if your
Everyone
sin is
doesn't need to be, no.
if your sin is gossiping, don't be a counselor.
right.
Yeah, because
Yeah. Don't,
that's
don't
actually good.
push your
You
leader.
want to hear what blah 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 told me in the
Gonna call.
session?
Well, did you? You need to
I
know what
got
I
some
just
tea.
heard.
I got some tea for you. Let me
Yeah.
get my popcorn. I got some tea.
I
I'm just
know
kidding.
I know a few prayer partners that will be like, we gotta pray for so and so because she has this, and they just gossip, like talk about the sins, and it's like, oh my goodness.
I'm like, you
the
could have just,
self one, but
you
she
don't have to
sold the
get into
whole
all
pack.
the details.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one thing, and another thing is like if you struggle with gluttony, then don't be a kitchen volunteer. Don't be a volunteer to put out the
Through
cookies
food.
And
before the church service
if
or the
you,
donuts.
Hey,
You're gonna eat them
I feel like
all.
most people have struggled with gluttony at some
No,
point or
yeah. As
another.
Americans, we have
Like go to the buffet, I'm like, I keep eating till I feel like I'm
yeah.
gonna throw up.
If you like to steal, don't be the usher that passes the trays down.
Oh, no, that's for real.
Grab
Like
a 20 right
that,
out.
that's for real.
I'm just borrowing it.
That's some other stories that
Yeah.
I know, man. Like I have known some people that they had issues with, they had sticky fingers and they were like the church treasurer or something. And
Oh
I mean,
no.
these people ended up in prison and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I
And
mean,
some
Oh,
people,
prison?
I mean,
Oh
if you do
man.
that
I mean,
much money,
if you're stealing a
they,
lot of money, you could probably end up in prison.
yeah.
yeah, and there's people that honestly, like, they truly justify in their head as this is God's money and I'm part of God's
And
people.
I need it, and I
So I
need it.
need it. Like, and
Oh,
But if it's in the darkness, I'm like, then why can't you just bring it into the light and just say you need money?
yeah.
Like, why are
right.
you
And
keeping it
that's the
so
thing. Like,
secret?
then why hide it?
Yeah,
It's
why are you hiding
right.
it if it's right?
In the situation that I know, it was the pride and it was that culture of like that, we should be prosperous. Whenever you're in Christ, you're in
Yeah.
prosperity type thing.
Yeah, like if
So
you're
because
poor, something's wrong with you.
yes, and because of that belief, like homegirl or home person, homeboy
He's trying not to
didn't,
reveal anything.
didn't want to
Home day. Pay
no,
them.
no. They didn't to
Them, they.
somebody and say, "Hey, please help me. I'm struggling with my finances, or can we do a fundraiser, or
Yeah.
do a little extra around the church for you to,
Yeah.
People
you
don't like asking for help for things. People really
yeah,
don't,
It,
and I might myself don't like asking for help when I'm in
yeah.
need.
mm,
And
It's
that's the thing
very,
is that if you come from a church where they preach prosperity and you're struggling with money, then in your mind
you're sinning.
you say, well, I'm struggling with money because I'm not good with God,
mhm,
right?
Yeah.
Because if I was good with God, I would be prosperous and
right,
have all this
right,
money. And it's like, really? Like is that what Jesus taught?
that was
Yeah, I don't know I don't
yes.
know how they put that
I
together
grew up
exactly.
like that, and honestly, it was so like it feels like you're in bondage to think like that, like to always feel like, oh, I must be doing something wrong because we're struggling financially, or
Yeah.
like you were always trying to figure out like what sin do I have,
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
it's over spiritualizing everything and it's detrimental to
right.
people.
Yeah.
It's over
And or
spiritualizing
you
everything.
would, because they would say like if you give a lot, you will receive a lot. So then you'd be like giving all your money to the church, and then you were left with nothing, and then you
Yeah.
would feel like God, I already gave you all the money. Please
Yeah.
give me my
Except they're just saying just
oh
to give, but they're not teaching people how to manage their finances, their money, how to grow
Yeah.
it. That's why I feel like that's what a lot of people need. They need to learn how to manage, all aspects of their life.
yeah
Spirituality can be the base, but you got to learn how to, build your health, your finances, your mental health. These are all
A lot
it's
of
all
things. Yeah.
together. It all works together.
yeah
And, like obviously financially, I grew up in a lot of churches that kind of push that idea as well that if you're not prosperous, you're doing something wrong.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You're not, living the life God wants you to live if you're struggling.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
It was so like you feel like you're in bondage,
Yeah.
and then like whenever you come out of that, it's crazy how instantly you feel free, and you think, oh, I wasn't wrong with God, or God
yeah.
still loves me even though I'm poor.
I
Yeah.
know. I feel like you can be like the poorest person and have a, great relationship with God and
Now, I wasn't raised like that, but I did hear a lot like when people were doing well with their money, they're like, oh, they're blessed. They're blessed. So
Yeah.
then I would also equivalent to like, I guess we're not blessed. You know,
They'll be like, "You're blessed from God if you have all this money,
yeah,
huh?"
I guess we're not being blessed. Like, wait, we're in the choir in church. We're in church on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Like, what are we not doing right?
Hmm.
So you know, you can still develop that mentality without having to go to a church where they exactly teach
Right,
prosperity.
right.
So it's not just a
Yeah,
prosperity church.
yeah. And that's one of the churches that I've gone to that teach the prosperity thing. They're only telling you, oh, the 10%, the tithe, the offering aspect. But these people really don't know how to do anything else with money. They think, they don't know how to manage money as far as saving, investing, having a budget, and like I grew up, I mean, I've had times I've been really bad with money and finances, they don't really teach that aspect. It's just trying to connect that if you're planting seeds in the church, you're going to be prosperous. Meaning, like, if you want a new house, a new car, you got to give this tithe, this offering, and that's how you get it.
And that
You
should
don't
be
need
the
to go and
reason.
save and invest any money. You
Yeah.
just you just
Yeah.
give this amount to the church, huh?
I agree with Irvin. That shouldn't be the reason. Like, whenever we give to God, it should be because we want to give to God.
Not
You
because you
know,
want something out of it.
or it's kind
Not
of,
because you want something out of it.
well,
Yeah, not because you want a
it's kind
house or a
of,
car.
it's the whole, and we learned this in worship theology. And I was reminded of it recently with my sister's prayer one time at church, where she said, like, our relationship with God, or our worship to God, is only in response to all the things that God has done for us, or like the response to just, who he is, and what we hear from him through his word, or in our prayers, whatever. So that's our worship. And giving to God, like our finances, our offerings, that is another form of worship. And so that should only be in response to God, and to the greatness of who he is and what he has done for us. And
Yeah.
um I mean, in our daily life too, if something great happens, then you can be like, I'm so grateful to God, and so here I'm gonna,
Yeah.
write this check, give it to the
Yeah,
church.
exactly. Like giving to others is,
Right. And I was gonna say that
like
too.
helping
Like,
other
sometimes
people.
you don't even have it. The offerings don't only belong to the church. There's many great missionaries that we can give to.
Yeah. Or you can
You
help someone in your own neighborhood. You know someone who needs food or
right.
Yeah.
groceries, go buy
Oh,
them
I was
groceries.
about to say, or you can donate to certain charities.
Yeah.
Right now, a good or good time to give, or a good program to give to, is like anything that has to do with the California fires. Those people
Oh
are
yeah, a lot of
desperately. I
people
know that everyone's
homeless right
like,
now.
oh, they're all celebrities. They lost
Not
family,
all of them,
whatever.
yeah.
Well,
They weren't all celebrities, but at the same time, like, they when you lose something, it's hard to
Yeah, like
really hard to
yeah, we
stop.
can't just say we're not gonna have empathy on them because they were celebrities. We're not gonna care. I'm like, you
it's
don't know
like
everyone's
yeah, it's
situation.
like if we gave money and like, okay, what you gonna do for us now? Like, or hey,
Yeah,
we're gonna give to the cancer patient, and okay, what you
what
gonna
are
do
you
for
gonna
us
give
now?
for it?
Like
Like
no,
it's you're only
but
giving because
we
they
act
want
like that with
something. Yeah,
God. We
yeah,
give God our money. It's like, okay, what you gonna do for us now?
Right.
Right? So, okay, we're gonna conclude this podcast. We're coming very close to the end.
yeah.
I know we got heated up already here in the end,
I
but
know we've gone from
we can
TikTok to talking
yeah.
about the church situation to now talking about money. Like
We
we've
can
gone.
talk for more. I know my wife loves the worship topic. We
I
can
do.
talk for another hour about it, but maybe that'll be next podcast. Our next podcast is our last one for the season. We're ending the season with 8 podcasts. So let us know in the comment section for sure which one was your favorite. We're looking at all different analytics to see which ones you like the best. That way we can make more. We are going to do a second season. It is confirmed.
Yeah, season two coming for
Yes,
sure.
it's coming for sure. Yeah. Anyways, anything else, guys? We have 30 seconds.
No, I mean I think this was a
No.
good talk. We've had we've we covered a lot of things, like I said, from TikTok to talking about some of our own experiences with church and this particular Reddit experience from the girl. I think we both, we all agreed on a lot of the aspects of what happened in the story, like what shouldn't be happening in church with people. And then, we kind of all obviously agree with the financial thing as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's been a good talk.
Awesome. Amaris?
Nothing, just, God loves celebrities too, so donate
Yeah, and then the
To
God loves
the
celebrities. We
yes,
care.
yes,
Celebrities' lives matter too, like we
yes.
care about them as well.
Yes.
So tough.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, and then just like
We're people.
diving in a little bit, and I don't know if we've mentioned it already, but Urban and I went through a house fire. How many years ago? Like 8 years ago,
Oh
around this
yeah.
time. And I mean, it's probably the worst thing that you could ever go to. So I feel for everyone that is going through that, everyone that's losing absolutely everything. And yeah, let's pray for California, do what we can do to get them through this.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Well, thank you
Yeah.
guys so much for listening and watching us. Hopefully you guys will follow us, subscribe to us, do all that fun stuff like liking and commenting, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye guys.